Listen, buddy, I'm not going to be around when the Armenians take over the world.
Who the hell wants you?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the podcast. This is episode 8 of Lost in Hollywood with me, Levon Muradian. Welcome back. And before we get into the actual podcast, subscribe to this channel because there's more content coming. Today's special guest is Dr. Anthony Tony Saroyan. He is a
psychologist, unlicensed psychologist currently working on it, but at a correctional facility in California.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what made you get into actual clinical psychology or that being your major to move? You know what I mean?
That's a good question, actually. I've been asked that at interviews, and I give a really butchered one, but I'll give you the real one. Okay. So my father's a psychologist.
Wow.
My sister's a school psychologist. So my father's clinical, she's school. My whole family's medical doctors. Both my grandfathers, all my uncles, everyone. Mm-hmm. My dad broke off from that and went clinical route. He got his MFT license, marriage and family therapy. Then he became a psychologist after and got his doctorate for that. So I was raised around it without knowing I was raised around it. I had no idea what psychology was until I was like 18, really. Like, it was just natural. Mm-hmm. My dad would talk to me in that way, and all the things he would do growing up was just natural, psychology things I would, learn about, I guess. Right. So I took, I was a geography major, actually. My goal was to join the military and be a geographer for the military, like mapping and stuff like that.
Right.
After college. So I was going to do it before, but then I decided I'll wait to go to college, go after. Then I took a sociology class. My goal for sociology was, this is a fun thing. It's so relatable, this and that. Told my dad, I said, hey, I want to become a sociologist. He said, you want to teach? And that's it? I said, no, I want to work with people. He said, don't do it. So I said, okay, shit. So then I ended up enrolling in a general psychology course. Same thing, fell in love with it. Because psychology, if you meet anyone that talks about psychology at all, everyone loves it because it's just natural. There's no smoke and mirrors. It's just things you can see daily, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just too relatable. That's why it's so drawing for people to join, right? So I went into that, and then took class, bonded with my dad over that actually, and then decided I'm going to just commit fully into it.
Was he happy that that's the path you chose to be kind of going in the direction that he went?
Yeah, I think from a bonding level, yeah, definitely happy, but I got cool parents. I got lucky that they never forced me to do anything. They wouldn't be doing geography, right? Whatever I do, though, I have to do it 100%. Though that's the only difference. Yeah, that's the key.
When you're in, you're in.
If
right?
I do it, I better be the best I can. Not the best of the field, but the best I can do in the field.
Is that something that it's implemented into you by you, or in regards to your family, or is it both?
It's unspoken, I think, more so. And I think a lot of Armenians, we feel that. Armenian men specifically, we feel that kind of drive where you don't want to let your family down.
Absolutely.
You want to really maximize what it is. Yes.
So they were like, he actually became, or she became something.
Yeah. Because
a lot of our parents came from different countries and migrated here to the United States. So everybody's family, our families could have a better opportunity to be successful.
Yeah. So
you're doing it, man.
Well, that's it. But then again, my family was dirt poor before my grandparents, right?
Absolutely.
And they became doctors. So that was the only, my Met's mom is still alive, right? My grandmother's still alive. And she still doesn't know what psychology is, I'm pretty sure.
Do you try to explain it to her?
I tried before, but she knows I'm a doctor. So that's all that matters. That's all that matters.
As long as it's in front of your name, right?
I used to try to explain to her when I was in grad school and everything. She's like, what is this? Just go to school, become a medical. And then I became it. She was like, okay, he made it.
Yeah, my grandson's a doctor, right?
Exactly. So doctor or bus in her eyes, right?
Well, you're not a bus now.
Yeah, I guess so.
So you graduated from the University of San Francisco?
Exactly, yeah.
So after that, how did you migrate into the actual penetentiary type of vibe? I know we're going directly into it.
I'm cool with it.
How did that come
I'll give you more fun facts about before that. So I went to the same elementary school as my dad.
Okay.
High school.
Wow.
Undergrad. San Francisco State University, go Gators, and then the same doctorate program. Different title, though. He's an EDD, I'm a PsyD, PSYD, same thing. But so kind of followed his footsteps on that. But that was my kind of decisions and all that stuff. But so corrections. Yeah, let's talk about that real quick. So I did not want to work corrections. That was not my goal at all. That 100% was not. It was veterans.
You wanted to help war veterans, right?
Exactly. It was always my goal. That's why military was always on my mind in that sense. Then my school was a brand new doctorate program because it had to renew its program. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to get technical right here a little bit, but it's called accreditation. So you have to get accredited, and that opens all the doors for you, essentially. I was the second cohort of its existence of the new ID program. Therefore, we could not apply to like the federal places like the VA Medical Center, which is federal, and all these cool places like that. So I was totally bummed out. I said, oh, man, I chose the wrong school. Why did I do this? Because I got into one in Los Angeles that was. Then when I was in an interview one time, they said, we like you, but you got to choose. You want to work community mental health, or do you want to work at a parole facility or parole mental health? I said, well, that sounds kind of cool. Why not? So I did it. 22 years old, not knowing what the hell I was going to get, not knowing anything about the world.
Very young to get into that.
21 when I started my doctorate. Too.
Wow.
So I knew nothing about the world, let's be honest. I grew up in a pretty nice, cush area, right?
Right.
So, just kind of went into it. And then one thing led to another. And the thing about my field is the more you're in it, and I'm sure your field is the same way, once you kind of, like I've worked that, then I worked juvenile hall, then I worked Tenderloin in San Francisco, which is a pretty rough area.
What's that? The Tenderloin.
Skid Row of San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
So I worked in the heart of it visiting in-home apartments for elderly and people on like that had strokes and couldn't move and stuff like that. And I've seen everything times 10 that you can ever see. I've seen people die. I've seen drugs. I've seen guns in the room. I've seen everything you can see in that sense. But once you go,
was this before you got into the actual prison system?
Yeah, this is all before. So the prison's the safest job I've ever had.
Wow.
In psychology, hands down, the safest job I've had in psychology.
So how did you get into the Tenderloin and all that stuff?
Just one thing leads to another. So I worked at the parole place. Then
so you gradually made your way up.
So here's how it went. I'll tell you right now. It's kind of, I never think about this. This is a good question. I worked at the parole place in the Tenderloin, or in the Soma, which is right next to the Tenderloin. Then from there, I got applied to a geriatric facility. I'm like, I want to branch out and not work with this population. I want to try everything. But I didn't know, again, because I didn't do my research, that there's two tracks. There's the young adult one, which is the people that have like hospice, palliative care, and other things like that. And there's the older adult one. I got hired because I worked in Tenderloin before to work at the young adult one. And I was the only male there. So they wanted me to work with the most dangerous people. And that's, in my field, they don't say it out loud. But typically, if it's a pretty dangerous person, I know many females that work with dangerous people too. I'm not trying to minimize that. But if it's the last person on the chain, it's usually me. So I usually get the bottom of the barrel, kind of like in the sense of like risk factor, kind of.
Is that because you're still so new, or
that's because I'm young, for sure, in the field,
and dumb,
I'm young and dumb, and I'm eager, right? Young, dumb, and eager. Which a lot of things I did in the past, I know 100% I would not do now. So looking back, it's only like 6 years ago too. I wouldn't do half the things I would do for my job. I would have better boundaries and stuff like that. But you're young and dumb, like you said, exactly.
Right.
So. Yeah, that just essentially that led to that job, the Tenderloin job. The Tenderloin one led to juvenile hall. Then when I was applying to internships, so it's the year before you officially become a doctor. It's like residency for us, I get. Well, you're a doctor of residency, but that kind of concept. I applied to 23 internships. Not one was correctional, which all my background is that. I got rejected by 22 places. One interview, because I applied to University of Counseling Centers. I want to be a professor eventually, right? Then phase 2, I applied to 13 places. I got 12 interviews, but they were all correctional places. So every place I applied that was correctional, I got an interview at.
Because you had the experience already.
And that's what I've learned, though, the pigeonhole aspect of my field. Once you're down there, I'm pretty qualified.
And you're absolutely correct. Yeah. When you get pigeonholed, you're almost like you're typecast as whatever you are, as I am typecast in this. Yeah. Even though, I'm very vast in what I do.
Well, tell me about your field then. I want to know, like, what was your original goal? Because I feel like most people have that, where you have your original goal, then it just slowly drifts, and it's not bad necessarily, but it just slowly drifts.
You want to just evolve. You know, it's either you.
Was it voluntary or forced though?
I think it's more volunteer, but because nobody can force me to do anything. Because in this industry, you have to have thick skin to move forward. A lot of no's are going to happen. A lot of politics are going to happen. All these things. So you have to be. Again, you have to have thick skin to be able to maneuver your way and be political enough to sometimes shut the hell up and just do it, Well,
let me ask you this, though. So you said no one forced you, though, right?
Yeah.
My question more so is, do you force yourself to?
I think after a while, I've never fallen out of love with the work that it is, but the politics, like I was just trying to tell you, and there's 10 more other people just like me can shoot the same thing for cheaper, and that's all it is. They want to get the bang for their buck, bro. That's all it is for a lot of this stuff. But if people, it's also your network. If you have bonded with people, you break bread with people, that's what makes the big difference between the 10 people behind me and me.
Yeah.
So that's how you remain relevant to magazines or modeling agencies, etc., or brands, whatever.
Well, it kind of reminds me of like sports. I used to play a lot of sports when I was younger, and they always said you're as good as your last play.
Exactly.
And that's kind of how yours sounds like, right? Yeah.
It's like, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
You've heard of that saying before, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that a lot of the time. But my trajectory from this to going on to being a little bit more commercial and stuff, it has nothing to do with the creativity. Yeah, some of the politics, but it has to do with money.
Yeah.
Because obviously you want to, put food on your table. You want to pay your rent or your mortgage, whatever anybody else does. Yeah. It's a hard business to be in, and to be in this business for over 10 years already, then I'm still alive and I'm still moving forward. I think that's a blessing alone, man. Yeah. You just have to have thick skin, and you have to have perseverance.
Well, that reminds me of the title of this podcast, Lost in Hollywood. I mean,
that's
really what that song's about, though,
Exactly. It's like so many lyrics in that song that spoke to me.
Yeah.
That song is one of my favorite songs by them, the band System of a Down. If you guys haven't heard it, you should. It talks about living in Hollywood and the dream that they sell you here.
Yeah.
The dream of being famous, rich, this, that. You see it on TV, you see it on social media, you see it on whatever the hell, right? It's kind of sad how back in the day you had to have real talent to be. You'd be the 5%.
Vaudevillian, or you got to do this beforehand. And
see, a lot of people don't even know. I don't know how the hell you just brought that up.
Vaudeville. My great grandpa was vaudevillian.
Really?
Yeah, in San Francisco, back in like the 30s, I want to say, or 20s. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was he doing in vaudeville?
That guy, his story, I'll tell you. I'm not gonna say. Well, I'll leave it to you to decide. But his story's the most interesting in my whole family. Probably is his. But
is that something we could talk about?
Yeah. Anything. So it was so I'm half Armenian, right?
Right.
Quarter Lebanese. Blood-wise, right? I always have to make the specific thing for that. And then a quarter like Irish-German mostly, right? And this is my great-grandfather, Jay, was half Irish, half German.
Okay.
For the most part, right? Lived in San Francisco.
Is it mother's side or father's side?
My father's mom's dad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, he grew up in San Francisco, went to Mission Dolores High School.
Okay.
And was born, I think it was 1910. Maybe I'm wrong with the date. But his mom died at a really young age. When he was like 16, his dad died too, so he was
alone.
So he ended up becoming a merchant marine.
Wow.
Went to Asia at 16 years old. A lot about his paperwork, to go and do the whole thing. So he was 18. And then went over there. Got a lot. He's an artist, so had a lot of inspiration. So a lot of his early art actually has to do with his paintings. Have to do with Oriental kind of paintings in that sense, right?
Because of what he saw.
Exactly. Okay. There's some cool ones of like people smoking opium pipes and like him getting cool drawings of that and stuff.
That's cool.
So then he ended up going back to San Francisco. Was a vaudevillian. Then somehow became the youngest police chief in California history at the time for Corte Madera at the age of 25, 26. Then left that during World War II to become a hand-to-hand combat trainer in San Pedro, which is where I'm from originally.
Okay.
That's kind of why my dad's side's from San Pedro. Then from there became just a painter and kind of dedicated his life to the arts after that. So he's done a lot of random. I'm sure I'm missing other things in that, but that's kind of.
Is his artwork still around?
Yeah. We still, my family actually still sells it in that sense.
Is there any way we could get a couple of images?
Yeah,
Maybe we could put it up right over here.
Yeah,
so what we're talking about?
Definitely. Jay Muser was his name. You go on Wikipedia, you can even see it. On
Okay.
My Instagram page, I posted, I think, my last third post was some of his art even on that.
We will definitely have it up here so you guys could take a look, and we'll link it to as well.
Yeah.
Definitely, but that's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's just random.
Was he related to? Since your last name is Saroyan, most people would assume. Are you related to William Saroyan?
Yeah,
the playwright, the screenwriter, the actual.
I am. So that was the best way to put it. It was one of my grandfather Suren Saroyan's cousins. Best way to put it. Second cousin, I would say in that sense.
Okay, but, and that's from your dad's side.
Yeah. So both my great grandparents, my dad's side. So this is my dad's mom side.
Okay.
My dad's side. Both of his grandparents, both my dad's grandparents, were related to William Saroyan from different angles. So the best way to put it is second cousin. We'll just say that. Just
your second cousin. Oh, your dad's second.
My grandpa's second cousin.
Your grandfather's second cousin.
It's the way they're related. It's two different angles in, and it's pretty close.
But they're related regardless.
And they knew each other. He was about 20 years older than my grandfather, though, at that point. So We have some books signed and written to my grandfather Suren and stuff like that about it, but not too many stories. That's
That's very cool, though.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it's cool. I wish
I mean, you are technically you're in the bloodline of a legendary playwright, etc.
That's cool. And you know what? When I moved to Fresno 3 years ago, because I have family in Fresno still, and that's where he's from San Francisco and Fresno actually.
Right, right.
So the cool part is no one ever knew how to say my last name. I grew up in the coast of in the South Bay of Los Angeles.
Okay.
Right? Never around Armenians, really Persians mostly. And
that's about right.
Yeah, no one can say my last name ever. I moved to San Francisco. My last name was called Sirloin, Syrian. I don't know how they say it. Saroyan or something like that. And moved to Fresno, and everyone, doesn't matter if you're Armenian or not, everyone can say my last name because there's Saroyan Theater. There's downtown's called Saroyan Country down there.
Does he have a museum down there
There's
as
a
well?
museum, the Saroyan House. There's all the Saroyan things everywhere.
So these are all historical landmarks down there, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the type of effect he left.
That's cool.
Through not just Armenians, but him being Armenian.
Yeah.
To America.
Yeah. Well, the whole Central Valley in California knows who he is, which is incredible, I think. Right.
That's amazing that he left such a thumbprint around.
I got a funny story. So I'd be at work, and the inmates at my work have PBS. They have local channels, right? And especially when I was an intern, in 2018, I want to say it was.
Okay.
September 2018. Yeah. There's every day on PBS. Apparently, there was what do you call it? Advertisements for the Saroyan House Museum opening. This and that, and all they have are local channels, like I said. So I would go to work, and I would have random inmates come up to me. While I'm running a group therapy, they'd open.
Because I know your last name.
Yeah. So we only go by last name. So I'm Dr. Saroyan or Dr. S.
So that's what you go by
Saroyan.
To them. Right?
Previously, I went by Tony, and that's where I'll go into that later. That's how I got the name Tony, because that's my other therapy name was that. Because I go by Anthony everywhere else in my life. But lately, people have been calling you Tony. Well, now my Armenian name now is Tony. So it's evolving slowly, but I kind of like the name Tony. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's short form for Anthony, obviously, but I think it's a very cool name to have, man. Tony, also Tony Soprano. There you go.
Well, I'm an uncle now, so Uncle Tony. That's
Uncle Tone.
A little more mafia sounding.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Uncle Tone right here.
So
Uncle Tone showed up with cigars, by the way, too.
Yeah. So the punchline is they would go while I'm running groups in other therapy, they'd open the door, which I don't know how they even are able to do that, but they would do that. And it's happened 3 times I can think of right now. And they would say, Dr. S or Dr. Saroyan, I saw your uncle or saw your dad or your uncle on TV the other day. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? They're like, yeah, the Saroyan, because it's local.
So they automatically assume.
Yeah. And I said, oh, that's cool. It's a coincidence. I always say it's coincidence.
You never tell them that.
No, I say it's a coincidence. It's a common name, which it's not, but it's a common name, which I've met other Saroyans too, but they're not relatives, which is kind of interesting.
It's very cool.
Very, very,
So, working in a penitentiary, they call you Dr. Saroyan, Dr. S, that you were saying. Do you get a lot of different type of Armenians in there as well?
Yeah, it's a good
you've spoken to.
I get that question a lot, actually, and that's a good question to ask. I've seen a couple of them. I don't want to go too much into that just because we have a small community.
Sure, of course.
And I specifically actually make sure I'm not their clinician. So I don't want to be their but I educate their clinician. I always make a very important issue. I educate their clinician beforehand.
Because you know about Armenians
our culture
and how to maneuver.
Exactly. So I do a lot of consultation when they work with non-Armenians. Well, non-Armenian clinicians work with Armenians, but I don't not want to work with an Armenian because I'll have what we call countertransference. I want to help them a little more because I'm Armenian. All these factors you got to think about as a clinician, right? I don't want them to know more about me, right? Factors about my family, more privacy.
Because they might come and look for you,
you never know the reason, right?
Right.
And I'm not saying because people in prison this are trying to maneuver.
No.
That, but that's something you got to be kind of sharp on all the time too, though, right? So there's been a few, but I'm not going to go in detail just out of respect for privacy.
No problem, bro.
Yeah.
No, not a problem at all. So, I mean, we were talking about social media a little bit earlier. How do you think social media has affected people and their mental stability and how they think nowadays compared to before social media and now, because it changes your brain waves a lot of the time?
So what do you say, more so in the Armenian community or in general?
In general.
Okay.
Armenian community.
We could talk about the war and how that impacted the social media aspect, but that's
absolutely. I think
in general.
In general, we can go from in general to how it impacted.
So I mean, you're a photographer, right?
Yes.
You know the power of Photoshop.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Mind you, none of this stuff back here is Photoshop, but I do know the power of what you can do.
You know what I'm saying, though, right?
Absolutely.
You're able to spot. I've talked to you. You could spot things that I am so blind to.
Bro, they're like, what do you think about this? I'm like, well, This is tucked in. This has been pushed in.
That happened one time with you and me, and it blew my mind. I said, "No way, dude!" And then you zoomed in and you kind of broke it down. I said, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, you can. It's very easy.
So, with that being said, though, and this is a lot of studies about this, and a lot of conversations in the news about this, right? Is people see it, they're impressionable, right? And we all want to say, when I was young, I would never have thought that, this and that. But you know what? We did, though, right?
Probably, most likely.
We have mentors. We used to love, in our generation, we had these idols and this and that.
Ric Flair.
Woo! Yeah, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
There you go.
That was mine. But
we're wrestling dorks when we were kids. Yeah.
So you think about that, though, and people idolize that, right? They mimic the styles, right? The way they dress, this and that. So
the way they talk, the way they walk.
So I want to say young adults and kids, but really even older adults, to be honest, everyone's impacted by social media. Even I am, you are, we all are. Even
Absolutely.
Where sometimes we feel naked without our phone because we want to see what's going on.
Have you ever noticed when you go somewhere, you're like,
well, okay, at my work, I have no phone. That's the ultimate blessing.
Really? So what, do you have to leave it in your car?
It was the scariest thing at first going to work when you don't have a phone, because you say, what if an emergency happens? What if this happens?
Somebody's calling me,
happens?
my mom, my dad, etc.
I've made sure, sometimes I think they forget, but I've multiple times I've emailed them my work phone, my email, check my emails and this and that. And I'm going to go into the war real quick. When the war happened, the best thing that happened for me was not having my phone for that 8 hours, whatever I was at work,
to see what's happening.
Because I was glued on it like we all were 24/7.
And when he's talking about the war, he's talking about the war between Azerbaijan and Armenia, where about 8 months ago or so, 10 months
October,
ago.
It was October.
Yeah, about 10-ish, almost, where we got into a war for lands that Azerbaijan was claiming that was theirs, even though these are holy lands that have been there way before Azerbaijan even existed. Yeah. And that's fact.
Yeah. You can look it up.
Go look it up. There's no, So the effect that it had on a lot of Armenian men and women in the span of almost half a year was detrimental.
You would not know me if that didn't happen.
Absolutely.
I'll say that 100%, because I had a very little presence in the Armenian community. I was my small Armenian. I did research on Armenians, but I knew.
So was that what made you really soak in your Armenian roots, your culture, your?
So I've always been proud to be Armenian.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I've always been involved with Armenian events, but more so the American Armenian events. You know what I'm talking about? Where no one really
more
Americanized. Where no one really speaks Armenian. We're all proud to be.
But
Armenian.
Our blood is Armenian.
Yeah, we're proud, but it's more like people that came from the genocide straight to America generation. So multiple generations in, kind of thing, right? A lot of times they don't. The ones I hung out with did not know anyone from Glendale. You know what I'm saying? It's just very separate.
The hub is
right?
here in Glendale, California.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
So, but you know what I'm saying though. So it's a lot. It was separated, right? So I was in that. I thought I knew what the Armenian community was, but I know my community, right? And that's kind of how we are also, right? But when the war happened, something happened. I mean, even before. I mean, when the anniversary 5 years ago was the other one, right?
Yeah, the 100-year mark, right?
Well, also the attack on our side.
Yeah, that's in 2012, right around there. 1992 was when it
originally. Another one also. I don't want to butcher it. Apologize in advance. 2016, I think it was.
Yeah,
there was a summer one too. That was last week was the anniversary of it, but. I got involved in that a little. My dad's flown to Armenia a couple of times, and he's a Fulbright scholar, so he actually teaches over there at Levon State University.
Oh wow, man! I didn't know that.
So he writes books with them and stuff like that. He's pretty involved over there now.
Does your dad speak Armenian and read Armenian?
None of us do.
Wow,
my whole family, none of us do. Which is incredible. But when the war happened, though, it definitely brought back it's a buzz term now, but it's real, intergenerational trauma, where it just brought back so much like fear and just anger and all these emotions from our ancestors.
Do you think it's locked into our DNA?
Yeah.
These type of things of the fear, the anxiety, the etc. You know what I mean?
100% is. I mean, I did my doctoral dissertation on mental health stigma for Armenian men specifically. If you want to look it up, it's on my Instagram. It's in the bio. I have a little thing.
We will link it in the YouTube description on the bottom if you want to check it out. Link in bio. And it's a new Lincoln model, by the way. No, I'm kidding.
But that's
inside joke.
The war, though, definitely, I would say, just, I mean, to another level. Like, I thought, okay, when I was getting involved, I thought, okay, I hope I'm not like overstepping, which just sounds weird to say, but I feel like I'm going deeper than what the norm of me is in that sense. But I said, the hell with this shit. I went full blown. I haven't looked back since, and people sometimes say these people, not me specifically, but they'll say like, oh, these people only became Armenian when the war happened and this and that. And I say the hell yeah they did. That's nothing wrong with that. That's how,
that could be an advantage to the Armenians.
That's a huge benefit. We should never put them down for that. We should actually say welcome back in that mentality, right?
Sometimes you know what it is, bro. The biggest downfall for us is us.
100%. Yeah.
And that's messed up to say, but it's true. Yeah. It's other, some people say, oh, we should be like this culture and this culture. We are an amazing culture. We take care of each other when we have to take care of each other, but a lot of the time we dismiss each other, which is kind of weird, Well,
that was a loud cough.
That's okay.
My windpipe, but no, 100% agree with that in that sense.
So, going back to you being, working through the penitentiary system, I know you meet a lot of very interesting people.
Everyone you can imagine.
From whatever to whatever.
The worst crime you can imagine, times 10.
Wow.
To the lowest crime.
So what I want to ask you, I'm not going to get in depth.
Yeah, you can ask whatever you want. I'll let you know if I can. Yeah.
But what I want to ask you, number one, is how do you sit in front of someone and try to pick his? I mean, technically, you're picking his brain in a way, right?
I have other files. I have everything about. I know everything about their history, what they say compared to what the court files say and stuff like that. It's weird. It never gets
easier.
It gets easier, but it doesn't get normal over. You know what I'm saying? When I'm at work and when I'm in the zone, I'm in the zone. I mean, I give these guys 100% of my effort. I'm not gonna ever slack or anything like that. They're humans. I'm a human. We're all human, right? I believe there's the difference between me and them is 2 seconds. Not for all of them, but like some of them, right? It's decision making. It's the way you're raised. All these factors play in a role for what that one act they did was, right? But being in a room though, sometimes as far as you and me are pre-COVID, now it's 2 more feet away. That's the difference. No, it's
they're by the camera, probably.
No, even closer. Still.
Really?
Yeah. But essentially, I'm in a room, cement room. There's a door. There's a little window, and sometimes it's this big of a window. That's it. And the officers are way down the hallway. They're nowhere near me in that sense. I have a whistle, and I have a little car alarm looking thing that you press, and the alarm goes off. But
notifies them.
But it notifies that the building has something going on, so they don't know what room it is. You know what I'm saying? So you can be like 10 doors down, and they don't know which room.
That sounds very dated.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't disagree.
A lot of things might happen until then.
You know what? And there's no cameras too inside.
Why not though?
Unions, I want to argue. Not for me, but for the correctional, I think.
Oh, I see.
If I might be mistaken with that, but I know that they're talking about them always about bringing them in or not, because that could help. It goes too.
Because you never know, somebody might attack someone. Or something.
You never know. It can go both ways on that, right? But I'm pro having cameras personally. But we'll find out what happens with that.
The question I want to ask you after that is, you talk to these type of people. Mm-hmm. Isn't it hard to take this home with you?
Yeah, that never gets easier, I would say. It's one of those situations where you compartmentalize it, right? As a clinician, you're trained to do it, and you're also, a good clinician is aware that it's hard to do.
Right.
Anyone that says, oh, it's no big deal, yeah, it's my job, this and that, then they're in denial, right?
Because some people try to hide it deep down inside, and then you
want
implode.
to be, especially in a setting like mine where it's more testosterone based, I guess. Female, male clinicians, everyone, right? Where you don't want to show that you're quote unquote weak, or you don't want to show that you get affected by this and that because you downplay. Oh no, it's just work, whatever, no big deal. But you do, like I get impacted every now and then, right? Certain things happen, right? I've talked to you a little about stuff like that. I'm not going to it right now, but I'm lucky to have my father's psychologist, my sister though, and I consult with them a lot.
So you pick each other's brains on certain situations.
I do, or not. I never have questions, I guess, more so as much as I want to just vent.
Yeah.
I pose it as a question, which a lot of us do as humans, right?
You flip it.
But then it's more
like what ifs.
Say it. And when someone tries to give you advice, you say, I don't want to hear advice. You know?
Yeah.
But so yeah, you bring it home at times, but the more I work in, the more I'm aware of what to trip out about.
Right.
Yeah, in that sense. But yeah, it's gonna happen again, I'm sure. You know.
So you were just talking about how your dad, you vent to your sister or your father.
Yeah.
What does your father think about you working in the corrections?
Yeah, he's okay with it, but his goal, he has his own practice and everything like that. His goal is for me to eventually replace him because my dad's really good at what he does. I know he is. You know, he works at Pepperdine now. Even
wow,
I mean, he's one of those guys that's never not. He's like his grandfather that I told you about earlier, right? has his hand in everything, right? Has done a movie before he made, right?
Oh yeah, we were talking about that. Would you mind if we showed it in between this right
sure,
now?
I don't care.
We're gonna. This gets cut right here, and then it's gonna get played.
Transport the team at 0500 tomorrow morning.
So now they got played, right?
Yeah.
So why would he do that?
My dad's just cool.
He
dude.
just
He's
he
cool. My dad,
likes a little dabble.
Yeah.
He's a dabbler.
My dad, when I was I want to say 6 years old, 7 years old, he made a full blown like 18 song
Like album?
CD album of my family all singing in it. And half them are really good. Half them are like me and my sisters, and it's a little bit.
You shared one of them with us.
It's I mean, he every single thing about it he produced, even in the movie, every single song he produced and all that stuff.
Wow, that's a talented man, bro.
There was only 2 people that worked on it, him and his friend, for the movie, and it was just for fun.
I think that. Do you think you know how he breaks away from the psychological situations to do something a little bit more creative?
Yeah.
It's a great way to vent
Yeah.
in a different way.
You know, that's a good point you bring up. It really is. That's kind of how I am too, right? My work's my work, and then I like to have fun, right? People think, oh, you don't act like a psychologist. My dad taught me at an early age, especially in the field, you're not a psychologist when you're not working. You know what I'm saying? Like,
this time to this time you're a psychologist, and this time to this time you're Tony.
Exactly.
Or Anthony.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I know people in my field, right? And this is very common, I feel like. People that are maybe more insecure, I would say. And not to knock on people like
Yeah,
this.
sure.
But they always want to present perfect, right? And that's in any field, really, actually, to be honest. But
Perfection is impossible.
they want to present, though, that way.
I
know
get
what I'm
you.
saying? And it's the thing is,
It's a shield.
my goal, I did a lot of Instagram lives during the war and after the war. And some
Yes,
of that.
you try to help again with the mental health and of Armenian men and
more than the diaspora, just because
yeah.
I don't know the culture as much in Armenia itself.
he's learning.
Yeah.
This man is learning.
I'm learning some words here and there. I
Yeah.
won't say the words I've learned yet.
Rabbis.
Rabbis. There we go.
There you go.
Make that I sound correct. But what was the question? I'm blanking out now.
Oh, the question was.
Oh no.
Oh.
This happens.
Yeah, it happens because we segued into something else.
That was good. Whatever
What
was
the question
good,
was
yeah.
being was your father, the venting, and
Oh, yeah.
how he vented from being he's a psychologist.
Yeah.
To be a little bit more creative, just for him to release all the crazy story. I'm sure. I'm not saying people are crazy.
No, I know what you're saying,
The
though.
stories that
Wild
people.
story,
yeah.
The thing is, I know my dad in the sense that I don't think I've ever seen him take like he called me last week and took a day off of things. I've never seen that before. And he even pointed that out, right? He's always working on a project in the yard. We have a pretty big backyard, so he's always working on something's broken always.
Tony's family has a porno yard, bro.
No,
I'm kidding. That was a joke.
But it kind of looks like one though. I
Yes,
guess, in that
yes or
sense.
yes.
Yes or yes.
No
But,
choice.
79.
Yeah,
But
Club 79, Jabroni hour later on.
hey, I hope you guys know the references. If you're not, you're slipping.
Clubhouse. Well,
Say it, yeah.
just to switch it up a little bit. I've met Anthony / Tony. I call him
Whatever.
Tony.
Call him Tony. It's fine.
Yeah,
He's Tony.
I met him on Clubhouse. I've been on there for about almost 2 months.
Yeah.
I met an amazing group of people who we've all mingled together, COVID safe.
Go to yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We've mingled together. We've chit chatted and we've befriended one another.
Yeah.
And that's how he's here today, which I think it's beneficial in regards to our culture.
Yeah.
To tap into people who are trying to tap into the real culture of Armenians.
Yeah.
This man is Armenian through and through, man. Just his mannerisms alone are Armenian as hell.
You guys got me the chain out.
Yeah, he's here, bro. He's gonna get a Rolex later on.
Well, we talked about this yesterday a little bit at the Hot Dogs plug again, Hasta Pasta thing.
Which was actually pretty
enjoyed
decent, pretty good.
It was cool. We saw a lot of people that we recognized too.
Absolutely. We recognized them, they recognized us.
Yeah.
Kinda, sorta, and we kinda got catfish too.
I know what you're talking about, but that's funny. So, no, I talked to you yesterday about this a little bit, though, where this has been so cool for me because, again, I grew up around Armenians. I saw them situationally.
But it was Americanized Armenians.
Yeah, and if I did see them, it was at camp or at like ACYO events, but that was like maybe 4 times a year. You know what I'm saying?
Was that a choice by your parents that they sent you to
my
camp?
sisters more so.
Really? You have older sisters?
2 older sisters.
Okay.
Not too much older, though, but they're
Early 30s type of.
Yeah. Or one's like 20, turns 30 in a couple of days, actually. And the other one's 31.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
I'm 28, so it's not.
It's a young man.
Turned 29
Ladies,
though. Yeah.
young man.
But they got into it. And whatever the thing is that whatever they do, I have to do. That was kind of the thing. So I didn't like going at a young age to Armenian stuff because I was like, I don't know anyone here. I don't.
You felt awkward.
I felt awkward. I don't know what's going on. And my dad joined an Armenian fraternity, which I'm a member of now.
Really? What was the fraternity?
It's the name is it's an interesting name. It's called Triple X, but
Vin Diesel's not in this one.
it's not. But it's we call it Trex now because it's more. It sounds a little better. But it's every major city in California has a chapter, and we meet every month and go over just social issues that we want to address, volunteer for. A lot of the food events we barbecue in the back. But again, it's more, I would say, American Armenian, though. Or, I know I'm using that word, but
No,
more
it's
Americanized Armenians in that sense.
But that's fine, bro.
Yeah.
Listen, you're Armenian, you're
Yeah.
American,
Oh,
whoever you
I'm
are.
proud. I'm proud of it. But
Not
I'm saying,
just you.
I'm saying that's the split, though. In the
But the thing is, you have the balance of both.
Yeah.
So you can feel for this end.
Yeah.
You can feel for this end.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it doesn't make a difference if you soak in your culture, whoever you are. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think I'm lucky, though. Both my parents are half. So it's not like one's full and one's not. Both are half. So I think all 5 of us are half, which is kind of cool. So we all bond on that kind of aspect of it.
Do you guys which side do you, I mean,
Yeah,
it doesn't make a
go for it,
difference,
yeah.
but which side do you lean towards in regards to in regards to family?
I can say this, and I love my Mets mom. I love my mom's side 100%, but 100% we focus on my dad's side, Armenian side, because my mom's side was raised, she's half Lebanese, half Armenian. Growing up, she raised me Lebanese, actually, at a young age. She was born,
Habibi.
there we go.
Yeah.
Well, she was born there, raised there, and everything. Her family, to this day, really prides himself on their Lebanese roots. And the Armenian roots, they'll talk about, and my young cousins are, God bless them, they're working on it, and they've been educating. I've been working with them on learning more about our culture. But after that, unless it's situational, they're only Lebanese, really. You know what I'm saying? So my dad's side has always been proud to be Armenian in that sense. So we've connected that side more on the Armenian side. But yeah, I would say that.
No, that's great, bro. I mean, listen, as long as you soak in your culture,
Well,
you're
that's it,
you're
yeah.
inquisitive enough
Yeah.
to understand
It's the best.
about
Being Armenian is the best fraternity you can ever be in. I'll tell you that.
because before I was talking about how some of us take care of each other, some of us don't. But majority of us, we take care of each other. We have each other's back. We drink. We drink. We eat. We argue. Armenians, either they're arguing or they're drinking and eating, or they're arguing about what they're going to be eating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's it. But I think that's just the culture of being in the Mediterranean or Eastern Europe. That whole vicinity in general is that mindset.
Well, I'm still getting used to that arguing part. So like I if I'm frustrated, I'm frustrated, right? I don't hide it really well, right? Which I'm okay with, right? But at the same time,
all right.
I know
You're
that
more forward.
Well, Armenians though, they do, this is a fun thing about us. I think more so that they'll argue, but they'll make up right away, right?
Absolutely. I think it's a 10 to 15 minute process.
But that for me though, I'm not used to that. So like if I'm mad, then I'm like, the hell with this guy, right? But I'm slowly learning. Okay, you know what?
Yeah.
This person's moved on. I got to move on, right? I'm kind of go that route.
Armenians get upset 15 minutes. It's more about paying a lot of the time.
Actually,
to be
yeah.
honest with you,
that can lead to
bro.
a real
I've
thing.
seen it in a restaurant.
Yeah.
It's like they're two very great friends. They're with family, wife, whatever, etc., etc. It's like, no, I'm paying. No, I'm paying. No, I'm paying. You're paying. I'm saying your mother. This guy's mother.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it's like, I'm sorry, brother. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It happens.
Well, it's a lot of honor for us, right? And
It's honorable
and it shows
because
we want to show we love you so much.
it's like I care about you. I respect you enough this one's on me.
And that guilt you feel when you don't, which is weird.
Exactly.
I don't think a lot of cultures know that feeling. Maybe Middle Eastern maybe know a little more, but
Middle East, I think, as I said, Middle East, Eastern Europe, part, not completely, and I would even say, that's about it.
Well, my non-Armenian friends never, the arguments never really exist. It's like, okay, we're going to split it, we're going to do this and that. And I'll say, no, I got it. And they'll be confused. Why are you paying, it's like, well, just.
I mean, I get it if it's such a big party.
Well,
that's a little bit different.
Like 3 people or 2 people,
Yeah. I mean, bro, even 6 people, you're like, whatever. But in general, Armenians are very prideful people in general. We try to take care of the people that we respect and love.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if you took out your
we're
mother,
very passionate. We're very passionate. Yeah.
Our corazón is muy fuego, a lot of fire.
Yeah.
Garak.
Yeah.
So, man, we were going back to turning back around, going back to what you do for a living, and I know we were talking about it in regards to what I'm going to be very, very transparent. You said that, there's certain things you can't speak about.
Yeah.
So you can't speak about certain situations. What is some of the craziest examples that you have ever heard from people who have, do you think, okay, but before I get into that part of it, do you think this is a mental disorder in regards to people, people in penitentiaries who do certain crimes and certain things that I think, quote unquote, normal people would not do?
So I'm gonna throw a curve on that. Sometimes it is, but I wouldn't. Yes is the answer, but I would rephrase it though in the sense that some of it's pure mental illness, and then other times it's systemic, as in the way you're from birth to adulthood, as in your factors. You find out these guys' stories. I'm surprised sometimes, but when I first started working, I'm like, oh my God, this and that. But then when you start hearing their history and read their files, you find out this person's been in the system since they were born, and they were abused here, abused there, they were neglected there, neglected here. They never had a chance. A lot of them never had a chance, really. And somehow they got to be an adult, and they somehow were able to make it happen, but they were barely holding on. And they're probably doing whatever they're doing before, and then it happens. And then once you're in the system, getting out is even that much harder. I got some people that I've worked with in the past that, I don't work with them anymore, but they're, serving life, they were serving life sentences, and they were scared about, like, some of them knew they were going to get out, actually, eventually, because there was a new law and this and that. And they were scared about even getting out, because that's a real thing, being institutionalized. And it's not that the prison does that necessarily. It's even before that, when you're in foster care, when you're in this and that. And
what has affected you in the youth, I guess?
When I went to juvenile hall, I saw this. The system is their parents, which is a really sad way to look at it. So I'm not saying that they deserve enemies to be there, this and that, but it's when you never have stability and the system is the only consistent thing that you have, subconsciously it draws you back. I think that's kind of the way I look at it. So they're not fearful as much of being in it, because it's just what
it's already implemented.
It's what they're used to. They know what to expect. They knew that the officer's going to say yes or no to this. It's not going to be a wild card usually, Yeah.
Do you think a lot of the people in the feds or the penitentiary, they're so used to that type of lifestyle of living there, they know nothing but that?
Yeah.
Do you see that type of like personality?
I see it's not as common as you think, but I see it sometimes. But it's also, everyone wants to get out for the most part.
I'm sure.
But it's something that I would say saying a goal without a plan is just a wish, right? So a lot of times people have a lot of wishes, right?
And that's amazing.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah, it's true though, right? A lot of times people say they want to get out, but then once they get out, and I'm very blunt with these guys, and I tell them straight up. I say, let's be real. You're gonna be using when you get out. I mean, I kind of.
Are these some of the questions that you would ask for somebody who's on a probationary situation? He has a chance to get out.
So I don't have a factor in that sense for that situation. So I'll talk to these guys, and I'll just be really. What I say maybe isn't very clinical, professional in that sense, but I talk their language, right? And that's how you got to be with them. You got to be straight with them,
like a friend. Almost, you talk to them like a friend, kind of thing.
Or I use their language. I might use some words,
things that they would understand,
censored words, something like that. But I'll just talk to them straight, and I'll say like, "Hey, man, here's the reality, right? I'm not saying you're going to use when you get out, but the reality is you have a high chance. And then be straight with me, man. Are you going to be using? You think? Yeah, Saroyan." And I said, "I'm not tripping about it, but here's the thing. I want to make sure you have a base for falling next
Right.
time, that you understand where to go, right? I'm a very harm reduction approach rather than absence based. I rather the small victories you use 6 times this week instead of 7. That's progress. Because that one day you didn't use it must have been the hardest day of your goddamn life, right? Compared to if I say, if you went a whole week and then you relapse, that's still progress to me, even though you might not think it is. That's because that shows that, wow, that every day you went, you made a conscious decision not to do it, as hard as that was, right? And that's kind of the way I talk to these guys. It's not so much judging them, right? I never lecture anyone, right? Because if you lecture them, they're not going to respect you, right?
It's like, who are you to tell me anything?
Yeah,
a lot of the time, even though you're trying to tap into the mind of whatever's going on. You know, it's very commendable, bro, because it's the type of job you have. A lot of people wouldn't be able to do.
It's what people think is not reality, right? For my job, a lot of times people think, oh, these guys get no services. They get, which it probably was. I think back before I think it was called the Coleman lawsuit. That was the main thing for that change mental health services, but in Armstrong and other ones like that. But it's what people see on TV. First of all, whenever someone tries to lecture me about my job and it's, believe it or not, that happens, right? They try to tell you, oh yeah, I'm sure you're
So
not
they
used to that.
and then, so they assume.
Yeah, they try to tell me.
Not in regards to what I'm not
obviously-
used to it. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, oh, it's easy. You just put the light
Exactly,
here.
yeah, that's exactly, yeah.
The light has nothing to do with it, bro.
Yeah.
You have to capture the moment.
People try to give their opinions all the time, man. Any field they're
Absolutely,
in.
man. Everybody's is very inquisitive about everything,
And
right?
You know that this is the biggest way I can tell that they don't know what they're talking about. First of all, I'll ask them if I'm in a mood. Sometimes I can be in a mood like that, right?
Is it a shitty mood?
Yeah, if I'm in a shitty mood, usually I'll brush it off. Oh yeah, I'll just say it, not in my head. But if they ask me,
And you're just like,
but if
yeah,
they
whatever.
do the whole thing about, oh, they get this, they don't have this, they don't have that, because they've seen, CNN one day or Fox, whatever, it's 2
and
seconds.
automatically they think
Yeah.
there's something about analyst.
So this is my trick question I'll ask. So if anyone's listening, know this, right? I'll say, yeah, what's the level of cares in my facility, in any prison facility? What? So
I don't know what that is.
Exactly. You shouldn't. I mean, no
because
one needs
I
to know.
shouldn't know it because
But there's levels of care for mental health services, and
there's levels.
there's levels, and I'm in the higher right before hospital, I would say, is where the level I'm at. So I'm in the more acute, kind of more
Intricate.
Yeah, it should be a year max, usually 3 months to a year. They hold these guys, but they can leave, and there's a lot of perks to be there too. They get out earlier from being mental. There's all these other factors people don't know about, but then also people try to say, oh, it's messed up. I saw in the news about the prisons, but they'll talk about jails, and jail is not. Which again, you don't need to know this, but jails are not prison. Jails where you wait to go to prison, right?
Jail is the holding.
That's
A
before your
holding
sentence.
cell.
Exactly.
When you go to the penitentiary or
Yeah. Well, you go jail, then you go to reception prison, where you hold there for 40 days.
reception has nothing to do with the wedding, by the way.
Not at
guys.
all. And then from there, though, you go to a prison. So reception
So there's a
is
like
prison.
a middle.
Reception is prison, though. So it's not. It is a prison still, but it's the transition prison more so to the long term.
Is that where people get acclimated?
I would say so. So I would say I'm lucky enough to not work at that. That's usually where it's a little more wild because adjustment factors are huge, right? So when I went to college in the dorms, people would freak out after like a month of living there because they were not used to living alone, right? So that's the adjustment period.
Shout out Top Ramen, by the way.
Top ramen, I survived on that too.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of what happens. So people try to tell me stories and stuff, but they're actually talking about jail, which is good. It's actually, I would say it's more dangerous than jail anyway. But that's why I know they don't know what they're talking about, though.
Jail versus penitentiary,
Yeah.
or feds, the feds,
Yeah,
or whatever the
state
hell.
or feds.
Yeah. So which one is more dangerous, the state or the fed? Both
I
are
would say
dangerous enough.
California State, hands down, because feds is more, not always, but a lot more white collar federal crimes, right? Like
Fraud.
and stuff like that. Well, all the major gangs that I'm aware of are in California State facilities, right? There's like 30 plus prisons in California.
I wonder how all these gangs that are in
Yeah.
the penitentiary, how do they mingle with one another? Are they separated?
It's called.
or is-
I'm not going to go too much about the
No,
games
no.
and stuff, but I'll tell you this though. We can look this up. There's a Prison Talk. I used to watch that podcast to learn about it. It's a pretty good podcast. It's Big Hurt.
Shop Prison Talk.
Yeah.
Download it.
It's pretty
We're
good.
Not a hater here.
His
Take
name
him
is
up.
Big Herc, and he was in the feds for 10 years. And
Okay.
he'll interview guys from the state also. So he's pretty good at doing that. He keeps it real. He talks about all the small details of any life living there from his perspective.
Wow.
And but yeah, it's the prisons though. They have what's called I don't want to butcher this. I think it's called CARS, not cars, but CARS.
Okay.
It's 5 cars.
Is that an acronym for
yeah,
something?
I don't know what it stands for, but it means the whites, the blacks, the South Mexicans, the North Mexicans.
Caucasians, Asians.
No, and those are the others. So
okay.
if you're what do you call it? If you're Asian, Middle Eastern, potentially, if you're Pacific Islander, if you're anything not white, black,
The
and northern or
regular
southern
situation.
then they're in their own group. And so my point is, I bring this up by race because you mingle only amongst. If you're on like mainline GPs over that, which I don't work in mainline GP, I should say up a record.
I don't even know what that.
What's
the
if anyone's
mainline
listening,
GP?
that knows about. I don't work mainline, which means the active yards where they have active military style gangs. You know, like the ones you see on TV.
Oh, there's a what do you call it?
There's 4 levels.
hierarchy.
So I'm a level 2. So a lot of my guys, they can have overrides, but a lot of them are either dropped out or mental health or other factors. There's other factors why you're in level 2. But a lot of them have been living on those major ones. So they're mainline guys, right? And they typically mingle with their own people.
Yeah.
And so it's really intense. So like even like for, and I'm not speaking on the specific cultures. I don't know much about it in that sense, but I know from my understanding that northern and southerners, right? They can't.
There's a difference between north and south, even in regards to where you live.
Yeah.
Remember we were talking about this about a week ago or a few days ago. I said north is where usually it's sunshine and rainbows. In the south is when it's shit. Is a shit show.
No, not this situation. Though.
No, but in general.
Yeah.
But in a prison system, it's very different.
It has to do just with geographics at this point. So
Yeah.
it's like has to do with more like I don't want to go too much into it. 'Cause I don't
No,
want to speak on
it's
gangs too much,
fine.
but
It's fine.
But yeah, it's 5 major things, and if you're not one of the three major races in that sense, then you're in the other one.
Okay.
In that sense,
And other check mark.
yeah, and that's but they do. I don't know what they do their own thing.
I wonder how they come. You're talking about these 5 situations.
Yeah.
How they would put that together.
I've actually asked my my patients in the past. I said, "What would this qualify?" I won't tell them what I am, but I'll say, "What would this race be?" Or what would and they tell me situations where, "Oh, I knew this guy that was this or this and that," right? But I guess it's situational. I would argue in that sense. But again, I'm not by no means am I an expert on the gangs situation.
Right.
I don't want to act as if I am one in that sense.
So what is there something you want to do?
Well, level where I'm sorry to cut you off, but
No.
where I'm at specifically,
Not at all.
the interesting part is though that's a huge deal in the main one, but when you go in the mental health facility and level 2 and stuff like that, it's actually the races intermingle. It's actually not as military hardcore.
Okay.
They actually will talk and stuff like that. But those
They will
ones,
mingle.
To my knowledge, though, I haven't worked on them. I've been to the yards, but I haven't worked. I've walked around them, but they don't intermingle at all.
So do these? I mean, what you're just explaining to me, do they befriend each other, or is it just like mutual respect and they just
and the main or the mental health one?
the main is very. I'm sure it's
Main's
very
just
hard.
very rigid. From my understanding, it's just
It's either like-
it's you just stay with. You walk the line you're told to walk. From my understanding, at least, yeah.
But the mental health.
Mental health one's a little more lax. That's why people like to go there sometimes too, that are maybe not affiliated with anything, so they can potentially hide out there.
So when you say affiliated, is that more gang related in general?
Yeah. So
a lot of gangs and that's what I was going to try to ask you of the amount of types of gangs that you see in the penitentiary system and in general. Is it very, very like a hierarchy system?
So again, I know what I'm saying, but I also want to be sure I'm not overstepping and saying
Absolutely. I don't want you to say anything that is not what you want to say
in that sense. But the thing is, to my understanding, if you're from, I want to say Bakersfield is the border, right? It used to be Fresno, but I think it's Fresno is its own now, even not for their own gangs and stuff like that. But usually, whatever you're on the street, to my knowledge, it still is relevant, I'm sure, but you end up forming a bond now with people from your area in the system, though. So
if you're in Bakersfield,
if you're from the south of it, then you're typically, to my understanding, part of that group now. Even though on the streets you might have your own little sub thing. So
you identify.
It's like being Armenian, right?
Yeah, you identify as this.
Barska High, but then when something happens, we're all Armenian, right? But then when not, then you just do the whole thing. That's kind of the same. I'm not
very interesting. Very interesting. It's very intricate.
Yeah,
it's very intricate.
There's a lot to learn, and anyone that says they're an expert is not an expert on that, I would say.
Bro, there's no such thing as an expert in anything.
No.
To be honest,
I feel like in my field though, you need to tell people that sometimes. I feel like sometimes people think they're an expert on every topic.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like there's experts all over, especially again going back to social media, going back to the internet, going back to all these things. Everybody's an expert in regards to whatever their field is. Not really. No. How are you going to be an expert on something where you have not, what do you call it? You haven't experienced it.
Yeah. I know people that I feel maybe they took one workshop, maybe they worked with one patient.
So they assume.
And then they put on like their thing, and I'm not knocking anyone specifically, but
no,
like,
absolutely
I've
not.
seen this in even my class, well, people I know though in general. Right? I've seen this, and they claim that they're an expert on my population I work with, and because they had maybe one patient that worked in that was from that population, so they're like, oh, I know exactly how it's like working this, and I'm like, okay, I roll with it because I don't need to. I don't really care about proving anything in that sense, right? I'm pretty confident in what I do already, but you'll see that, and I'm sure your field's the same way though. Someone might have done one photo shoot for something, and now they're the guru of this and that.
Yes,
right?
they're the authority. All of a sudden, they're the authority of what they know, bro. I know a guy. He got lucky. Luck has a lot to do with a lot of places, a lot of professions, and luck has everything to do with creativity.
Yeah,
especially with this. If you're a filmmaker, a cinematographer, a director, etc. It's who you know and what you do, and automatically, when you get to a certain place, you automatically think subconsciously. That's what I think. That you think that you know more than everybody else, even though you're doing the same thing. You just got lucky because luck in regards to who you're working with, what the client is, this is, and you're there, and people are now paying $400 or $500 for Discord. Yeah, I know a guy. He's paying he's charged $500 a year for Discord, so he could show the lighting of how he lit. Film photography is a little bit different than digital because digital you see it automatically. Film you have to develop it, all that stuff. And he is charging people who are underlings, right? $400 or $500 a year for him to just show like how he lit it, like how this balloon light is above us right now. Yeah. And I think that's sad, bro. I think that's sad. That means, mind you, this gentleman has shot for Nordstrom, has shot for Elle magazine in Ukraine. It's not USA, but it's Elle Ukraine. But it's still part of the family, the tree.
Well, it minimizes it, though.
Yeah. What he's doing is he's trying to suck it out as whoever is gullible enough. Listen, anytime you've been on my social media, somebody has hit me up through DMs or etc. Asked me, how did you do that? I give him a diagram of exactly how I did it. No charge, whatsoever. You know why? Nobody did it for me.
Well, also you want to. My thing in general is just in life. If you can help someone and it's not sweat on your back, help them, because you never know in the future. Not that they need to help you in the future, but you never know when you run into that person again, and maybe
he'll remember you.
In that sense,
Karma. I believe in karma more than anything else, bro.
Yeah.
You do good shit happens. Yeah. You do bad shit happens.
It all adds up. That adds up because the way you act, even when you do good things, you start changing as a person in a good way too. So the karma helps you also, in my perspective, in that sense, right?
Agreed, bro. Some people they take karma for advantage, as an advantage towards whatever. You try to help out, like let somebody who's down and out. You give him some food, you give him some money. He's like, that's it. What else do you want me to do, bro? You want me to buy you a house? You want me, or he or she, whomever. Going back to he or she, that aspect. How nowadays people are trying to identify as whatever. As somebody who taps into the minds of people, what do you think that thought process is? Is that more from the media, or is it more from what is people are thinking?
From the person that wants to identify as that, or
I mean, it's not. Before it was like
it was just two. It was binary. It was he or she.
He or she, and if you want to transition from point A to point B, understandable. But now you have to identify as, or try to. And nobody's forcing you to identify, but you're trying to. You get what I'm saying.
I think what throws people off about this is my own perspective on it. First of all, I believe we should respect whatever people want to be called.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
It doesn't. Why do we? A lot of times we feel like we have to have a say in other people's lives, right? That's a big thing. It's human nature, right?
Even through social media, we do it. People
it's changed.
comment on the shit.
Change though. People really don't like change, right?
Yeah,
People
it's hard.
really
For
don't
people,
like
it's
change.
hard for people. Change is hard.
So when you hear that whatever you've been doing all your life is now going to have to change, saying people this to people this and that,
Right.
regardless if people, I don't think it really matters about the topic. People are going to throw a hissy fit, right? Just because they're going to say, this is stupid. I'm going to still call them this. That's just people being ignorant because they don't want to change, in my perspective on that,
Right.
in that sense. But in general, though, if you think about it, though, because I've done some, again, I hate to downplay my knowledge on this because I know enough about this, but definitely not an expert on this topic. But essentially, though, it's a spectrum, right? And that's kind of what the whole point of it is, right? It's identifying where you lie on the spectrum. Because to be a man, what's a man, right? From our culture, we know what a man is. From a different culture, we know what a man is, right? And if you even argue amongst cultures, everyone has a different perspective of what being an objective man is, right? Same with a female, right?
Right.
Certain things in our culture that a man does would seem barbaric in another culture. Some of the things that
Absolutely.
another
Some people will call it toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But it's situational to culture, right? And,
Right.
And you can argue, the toxic masculinity concept. I know a lot of people don't like that word either.
And it's almost very offensive, like it's an F word to them.
So I kind of have mixed feelings about that word myself. I do believe that there is such thing as the patriarchy and toxic masculinity, other things like that, which maybe in a more advanced community and this and that has that's well off and not trying to focus on means of survival and this and that. That's what they can focus on, right? It serves a purpose to a degree, but it can also be misused, right? There's certain things in life, right? In the sense of the toxic masculinity, though, in some cultures, though, what's acceptable in our culture, paying for your meal, right? In that fight we do, right?
We were just talking about that.
People in our culture, they may disagree or agree, but that could be a thing that's normal, right? If you're doing a different culture that's more maybe passive and maybe more quiet and this and that, right? That might be seen as very rude and very wrong and this and that. So in America, we're a melting pot, right?
Of all types of different cultures.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So when we blend in with different cultures, and we all have different perspectives on what things is, right? This conversation, I think, happens more in countries like ours, Canada, other ones that have more.
Ours, Canada, Eastern Europe, the Mediterranean.
No, I'm saying more so though.
Yes.
That'll have multiple people mixed in with from different races, right?
Canada, the United States, even parts of Europe.
Yeah, 100%. It's because it's what you're used to and your culture might be different than other culture. And
100%.
And I think we don't talk about that. We talk about cultural specifically, but we don't talk about the interaction, how maybe the difference with perspective in that sense. But yeah, I do agree though that we got to work as a world, right, on that concept of toxic masculinity, right? But I do think we throw that word around. It's a buzz term for sure. I was at a convention, the psychological convention, 2019 APA.
Okay,
that was the main talk of every presentation. And I thought, it's an important conversation, but there's a lot of other factors we're talking about, right? I'm sure next year there's gonna be another major topic that they're gonna hyper focus on, right? But
so that was a topic of the year at that time.
Yeah, but that has to do with the zeitgeist of our culture, right? Everything in psychology.
Our culture, meaning Armenians,
American. We had the president we just had, right, and that brought a lot of
coming from a person who is toxic masculine.
So that brought up that was one major reason I would say that became a salient concept, right?
Do you think that majority of the Americans who voted for this situation, which was Donald Trump versus Biden, who was more passive and a little older, a little bit smarter, he's more from the idea of the late 70s moving on to their mid 90s, going on to, but even though this man on this end had the same thought process, but he muted it down.
Yeah, well, that's a whole different.
Yeah, I know. I'm not trying to get political.
Well, that would have to do with your cookie cutter politician versus opposite, right? But the thing is, I use that word a lot. The zeitgeist, right? Whatever. So the 40s, they're both in the 40s, right? And they have that perspective, whatever it is, right? So when you have two people from the same time period, you're going to be doing that, right? I think. As our culture evolves, certain things become more important than they don't, right? And then certain things become major topics, and then they go to, right? That's really what it is. And I think on a personal level, I kind of am here for it in that sense, right? But I don't believe in going just so radical. I believe in progress and change, right? Not
sure.
Because once you go hardcore this way, what always happens is this other side happens, right? And we've seen
it's been going on forever, bro.
Yeah. I believe in the process in that sense, right?
So going from all this stuff, man, I mean, doctor, Well, you started off as going down your family. You know, you went on the direction of your father.
Yeah.
Technically, the way you explained it just now. Are you fulfilled so far in what you do?
No, not at all.
No.
I'm happy, but I'm not fulfilled though.
What's your ultimate goal out of all of this? You know, you have the experience. You were talking about the tenderloins.
Yeah.
You were talking about going to that's what it was called,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, the tenderloins. Going on to the penitentiary, dealing with so many different personalities, thought processes.
Yeah.
What's the end goal for a Dr.
You know what?
Tony?
I've thought about this, and this is going to be a lame answer, but I don't have an end goal, and that's the best part. Because the thing is, I believe when I got my doctorate, I got like a little depressed after. I was like,
What's next?
yeah, that's a pretty common thing. People getting their PhDs and stuff like that, just in general, where it's that fourth year before the fifth, wherever, you have a little, because you have a fantasy of what it is. Before I became a doctor, I thought I would never become one, right? Then become one, you're like, I feel
You brought it to light, bro. You became a doctor.
Well, I feel exactly the same.
Really?
Yeah, that's the word, because it's just a slow process. When you slowly evolve, right, in the field. That's 5 years to get the doctor, right? So that's 4 years of 9 years, right? Without a break. So some people take longer even, right? And you have a fantasy of what it is, but it's my dad taught me before I went the program, enjoy the process, not the outcome, right? The process is what the best part about being a doctor was, the process of becoming one.
So you think your dad remembers it to this day, that entire process?
He told me he goes like this, and I didn't believe him when I had a total like meltdown before I started the program. I was 21. I was like, what am I doing? What the hell do I know about anything? Right? I'm going to be do a doctor program for 5 more years. What the hell, am I doing? And he told me, I remember my program and went like that. So enjoy the process, and yeah,
life is just like that too.
Yeah, it really is.
You know what I'm saying? So enjoy yourself, Tony. Enjoy your life, bro. What's the next step? What's the ultimate goal for you?
Yeah.
My ultimate goal for me, I'll just tell you before we get into you.
Yeah.
My ultimate goal in life is, bro, to shoot for high-end publications.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with money or anything like that. Yeah. Just to have it in the book. Just to have it in the book here.
Yeah.
I need nothing from anybody else. I just need confirmation for myself.
Yeah.
What's your confirmation for yourself?
So now I'm thinking about it. I've never thought about this level, but remember how I told you my great grandfather did a bunch of different things?
You're right.
My father does a bunch of different things.
Yes.
That's kind of who I am too, in the sense that I don't think any of them were ever. My dad's not satisfied. He's happy, but he's not satisfied, right? My great grandfather was never satisfied, right? He always had to do something new, right? And that's kind of my personality too, where I like to accomplish things and I go all in when I do it, but then I don't like dwell on it in that sense. I don't want to be that guy 20 years from now that I do something big and I'm like, well, 20 years ago I did this and that, right? I want to be the guy that's still doing something different, right? And I don't do things necessarily for approval in that sense. It's more so for my
approval for yourself.
Approval for myself is what I care about. And like, I could say, damn, I did that. What the, how random was that?
Exactly, bro.
I look back on a lot of things I've done. I don't believe, like, I taught chess random. What the hell? I mean, that was random, right?
That's right. That's a good story to tell.
Yeah.
He was Dr. Tony.
Tony.
Yeah. Mr. Tony. Tony.
Mr. T.
So, Mr. P. Mr. Elbow Drop. So you were teaching children how to play chess.
Yeah.
The mindset of a chess player, how you can, was it the idea of implementing chess into real life?
So I needed a job when I did that, but it evolved into being a passion.
Right.
So I was like 19. I knew how to play chess. I didn't know much. And I remember going to my interview, and the guy who's a guru at chess, this guy's incredible. He said, he taught a class I watched. I was like, what is it? What the heck is going on here?
Right.
Then I played chess with him after. I literally 2 moves. He stopped the game. He said, you don't know what you're doing. This is trash.
I wouldn't leave it.
Study. You're hired. Study. I'll do trial period for you. And if you suck, then you're out. And then I worked my ass off, studied it, learned all the major, there's like 10 major opening moves. The openings and defenses, we call them.
Right.
Opening for white, black is defense, right?
Yes.
But so I learned that.
That much I know.
Yeah. But I would have a note card. I'd be shaking for class. I'd be sweating, my armpit sweating. For all these kids are just confused what's going on right now. Watch me.
Was the intimidation from that man?
Just not. You know when you do something you don't know what you're doing.
Yes.
But then like,
and you're just that touch of anxiety kicks in with
it.
it.
Teach it in class when you're a kid in class, and like you have a presentation that you just made up that second kind of feeling, and you got to do a whole half hour. At least I put more effort into it. But I hated public speaking. Right. Someone that talks as much as I do, I can talk if it's just talking, but if it's pre-planned, then I get all nervous and stuff, right?
There's no planning here. You're speaking freely. We're going.
True.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that kind of happened. But over a while, I just started learning how to do it. And that's why I want to teach, right? I've learned how to teach from that because if you teach kids, granted, it was an after-school program. It was an hour-long lecture I would give, and they play chess after. But there's so much going on where you got to keep their attention because you got to learn how not to be boring. I think anyone that teaches should teach kids because they will let you know if you're really boring, right?
You're a boring person.
I was boring at first, and I learned you got to spice it up. And when you spice it up, then you get their attention. So a lot of professors I've had are just dry as dry board. Or
Do you think some of the people who teach anything, they can't tap into the people that they're teaching?
They can be an expert, but being an expert doesn't mean you can teach, though.
They just want to blurt out the facts.
Well, it's kind of like in grad school, I had a lot of people I knew that were just way smarter than I am.
Right.
Way smarter, book smart, but they can give therapy for the life of them, right? That's just how it is, right? Or it's
But you're personable. That's the thing.
That's the key, though, right? And that's what teaching, I argue. Teaching is a lot about engagement in that. Like I've had some teachers that are like their IQs surpass anyone I've ever met in my life, and they were the worst teachers I've ever met in my life. Right? Because just because you're smart doesn't mean you can teach. I met some people that are pretty average, whatever, but there's the best classes because you don't want. Who's like the best soccer player in the world? Ronaldo. Yeah. You don't want Ronaldo teaching your kid soccer because you want someone that's just above their level or like maybe an average player.
Yes.
Because they can understand more about how the kids struggle compared to someone that's an expert, right?
Someone who could fit into the situation of these children.
Yeah.
Who could relate to them, right?
Let me ask you this. Who's like one of your idol photographers, someone like that? Someone that's just good.
Oh, man. Mario Testino.
Okay. Well, let me ask you now. So Mario, right? I don't know who Mario is.
Yeah, okay.
My friend's Mario. But the thing is, do you think I've never done photography ever, right? Do you think someone like him would be better teaching me, or someone that's maybe been doing it for 3 years and kind of getting this from the get go?
Depending on the situation.
Yeah.
Sometimes the situation differs one another. Do you want the raw and real situation that he's photographing from emotion?
Yeah.
Or somebody who's gone through the 30-year, 40-year process. He's evolved.
Yeah.
He changed it up.
Yeah.
He was shooting this, but then he changed it up because he knew if I changed it up, maybe, just maybe, this is what will get me to here.
But do you think though for that kind of grind though, that kind of mentality from
the 30-year grind
from a teaching perspective would be better for a beginner, for a total beginner though, because
I think for a beginner you want the guy who can be who he or she can relate to.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, because if someone that's an expert might not have the patience. Maybe they don't understand the struggles. That person doesn't even know how to do the flicker. And
whatever the technicality.
That's a lot of with sports, and that's a good analogy to these for sports. A lot of things like that. You want someone that's more, that knows what they're doing, obviously, but someone that's closer to you than
somebody who's gone through
exactly.
Now
they can teach
the path.
Yeah, they can teach good too, obviously.
No,
but
absolutely,
it's
they'll teach you. But
yeah.
Who's closer?
Yeah.
Somebody who's made it. He's rich, famous, etc., or so well off. He's in the news, etc.
Exactly.
He's lost touch, or he or she has lost touch with being the raw, the real, the whatever the hell, right?
Yeah, that's exactly how it is, right? And that's why a lot of my experiences working were that with a lot of people that were pretty raw and this and that. I've worked with some geniuses in my field, but then I've also worked with a lot of people that are fresh out of school before I was, a year after I was, right?
Do you find a lot of pretentiousness in a lot of this stuff?
What's funny is where I work specifically, not at all. If they do, they get humbled very fast. My job is very unique in psychology. I would say that's why I love it, I think, to a degree. That's the part I love about it, I think, is how real and blunt, and you'll get humbled like no other. And a lot of times psychology is kind of not watered down, but in our field professionally, it's a lot of eggshell walking or this or that.
You got to know what you're going to say.
You got to know what you say, and you want to be every word you say, you got to be careful about this and that. Where I work, it's just so raw the way you talk. There's no. A lot of times people don't have a filter amongst each other, but it's respect though. It's not.
Is it a filter from you? You're not filtering, or is it the actual people you're working with?
You know how we're talking right now? That's how we talk at work.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but the thing is though, you'll talk to then. I've talked to other friends of mine. They're legit people. They're very nice people, but they talk as if they're. Even when they're talking like this, they'll start talking like as if you're in a session almost, right? And it's,
really,
it happens. It's hard to turn off. I understand that aspect. I've done that myself, right? But that's the biggest thing. So it's not pretentious. I wouldn't say that. people typically, once you have your degree, you're not really, after the first maybe couple months you are, and it's natural, you earned it to be pretentious, but after that, you realize it's a job, right? But
it's a field you jump into, right?
But
a lot of the time.
Exactly. But the field, I specifically, the corrections work in, it's very, I talk to janitors every day. I talk to officers. I talk to everyone I talk to. You got to learn
you
how to
soak in everybody.
It's blue collar. It's probably the most blue collar psychology job you can have in that sense, which I love.
That's very interesting because I feel like tapping into from a corrections officer to a janitor to yourself.
You got
to
convince that officer that what you're doing, because they think you're just there to just enable whatever, So you got to make sure that they understand what you're doing.
You're trying to help them.
Yeah, and that's where the pretentiousness comes from. Sometimes some people go in our field, and sorry to cut you off, but sometimes they go in and they're brand new to corrections, and they think I'm going to help everyone, this and that, but then they totally block off all the moving parts that everything's involved with everything, and then the officer's like, who's this guy going in, or who's this girl going in, trying to change everything up, which they don't know how it even works. So they're getting played now, and the officer's like, hey, what's going on?
Right.
And that's where it's called splitting happens, and that's a whole different thing. But yeah. So being pretentious doesn't go anywhere
in life, in psychology, and anything. In
doctor's
that
order there, yeah. Don't be pretentious.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Tony, let me ask you a question. What's the end goal for you?
Yeah. So my original goal, I'll say this, and it's kind of the same, but I wanted to work at a VA medical center. Veterans is something I'm passionate about working with still. I do believe they're getting services, but I believe that you can never have enough, right? So I don't like putting down, say that's not good, that's not. I don't know. Right. I don't know the system enough to say if it is good or not, right? That's my pet peeve in my field, right?
Right.
So, but I know that's always been a goal of mine, is to work with them. I'm fascinated by just the culture, the military culture. My coworker, I used to work with that. He's not there right now, but he was a Marine, and this guy was 16 years in the Marines, and this guy's fought through all these battles. And he's told me some
wild stories.
The most wild stories I've ever heard through him, probably. And he's a psychologist now, right? And talking to him, I picked his brain as much as we sat this close, and I picked his brain every day, trying to understand how maybe I might be some kind of guy that they might be standoffish with, because I don't know anything about the culture or this. And so I would always just learn as much as possible to make sure that when I eventually do that, if that happens, I can understand. I'm not some guy that's green going in there just trying to be a naive kind of clinician, right?
Right.
But that's my goal. But then also private practice. And then here's my goal: education. I want to teach.
You want to teach
community college. Community college is always
really,
but part time, just for fun, not to make a career out of it. But
that's commendable.
Yeah.
Wow.
But again, I'm blue collar, right? Community college, they're the most real though, also. Because I've been to public school, I've been to private school for college.
Same, actually.
And I've been to community college for a couple classes here and there.
All those things, yes.
And it's the more, like state school, hands down, was better experience than my private university, which was a better education, classes, you can argue, but you're with real people. And real people, I know how to communicate with real people, not that whole, that whole thing. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying, bro. You gotta be one with the people. Is there something? I mean, I've picked your brain. Is there anything else you want to pick my brain about before we wrap?
How the hell did he get in this industry?
Oof, this is a very interesting story.
I've always been curious about that. Yeah.
So the curiosity
look at these
is
photos, man. Jesus.
I mean, there's so many more. This is just the ones that I prefer and I love. How I got in here is by half an accident.
Yeah.
Half an accident being like, I started off as a cinematographer. I used to shoot videos, etc. and stuff like that. I thought I was going to be a fucking movie director like Francis Ford Coppola from The Godfather.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, I ended up shooting rappers, rock stars. Well, rock stars being like wannabe rock stars, undergrounders and stuff like that. So how I ended up here is, in life, you think people want the best for you. Yeah. They don't. A lot of the time. That's true, though. Yeah. You might be the most loyal person in life. I'm with you, my friend, my brother.
You want
my
the best
sister.
for you, and hopefully they can want.
They understand the same situation. Yeah. So, me segueing from shooting music videos and stuff, I was on set. I've said it a few times. I'm sure the people here have heard it too. I segued from music videos to fashion shoots, even though the girl who I was shooting originally wasn't so fashion, but I made her so look like an editorial model that modeling agencies reached out to me. They're like, hey, would you like to shoot so-and-so? I did. And from there, here we are, man. 10 years plus later, we're trying to figure it out, But in the end, my ultimate goal is just for me to be happy with myself.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
I got a couple more questions for you now, since it's on you now a little bit. But,
okay.
Beauty, your perception of beauty, how has it evolved as a photographer?
Because perception of beauty for me versus your perception of beauty versus whomever is very different, right? Yeah. So see, the thing is, I grew up in the mid to late 80s. Yeah. Well, I was born right in that era. Yeah. I grew up in the 90s to the 2000s. So I've seen a little bit of everything. Beauty should be as natural as possible. Nowadays, you got Botox. You got fucking a filler for her ass. Yeah. Her titties are so big.
It's funny. You point this out to me all the time. I'm so blind, dude. It's just so bad.
Bro, I mean.
In photos, I'm blind at least.
Yeah. Remember I was telling you about the upside down heart?
Yeah.
That is a actual plastic surgeon's
diagram
quote or diagram or whatever. The upside down heart. So what I saw when I was a young man, the first time I saw a naked woman I was about 8 to 9 years old in person in Greece. And I was confused because as Armenians, your mother, your father is not going to explain that to you, bro. Yeah. So you're like confused and you get, your hormones, even at 8, 9 years old, I was like,
you're feeling something.
Something is boiling, something's brewing. And from that day, but I was never that guy, but like, oh, okay, this is, I didn't know, so I picked it up gradually. I've traveled the world as a young man. Yeah. When I say young man, from age 7 to all the way to like my mid-teens.
You've seen the diversity of the world.
Yeah. So I've seen all that stuff. That stuff implemented me so I soaked it in my mid 20s after the music videos, after the bullshit, whatever. I landed here by accident. Yeah. I had no plan to be doing this, but maybe the plan in general from up here, what was the plan? So I'm trying to figure it out still at age in my mid 30s,
Can I ask more questions? All right.
You can ask as many questions as you like. But no, you got plenty of time, bro.
Good. So beauty, though, is culturally specific, obviously,
Absolutely.
Right? So American culture versus the Middle Eastern culture versus the Asian culture, the dimensions, everything about beauty, right? The tone, everything is different, right?
Yes.
Weight, even. And do you feel that you're most effective in your desire for photography in the American culture, or if you were, let's say, from Europe originally and in the European or I don't know, whatever, in any place, that you would have a different perspective, I don't know, different experience?
I think what I've seen from what's happening now and what's happening before, I think the natural beauty is what you should leave it as. If you're born a certain way, be a certain way. If you just so happen to have the right ears, the right nose, the right mouth, the right jawline, go with it. Yeah. But people are changing that up now, and that's sad. It's not sad for me.
Generic now,
or you. Yeah. But especially in California, there's a certain aesthetic.
Well, Japan is what's that phrase called in Japan where they have a pottery and the pottery's broken, they fill it with gold, and they call it a perfect imperfection, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what a lot of beauty is. So Crawford had that thing, right, in the mold.
Yes.
Right? Certain things that make you unique.
Sidney
Crawford,
about. Yes.
Uniqueness is beauty a lot of times too, right? So.
Bro, beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Exactly.
And that's not just a random saying.
Well, we go on debates, though, not specifically, but on Clubhouse, that app, if you guys haven't been on it. But
again, Clubhouse is a great hashtag 79 Jabroni Hour / random trolling situations, Armenian Club / whatever. We're gonna open up a 79. You were talking about it.
Oh yeah.
You want to open it up to
I'll go
the vast majority of Clubhouse.
So so if you guys ever see a hashtag 79, it's a stupid thing I made up, which I love now. It's just kind of evolved into my cult, I guess. And it's
Tony's cult.
I got bored after work because
we're gonna drink the Kool-Aid later.
You already drank it, but what happened is I was driving home from work and I get bored after work and I'll just drive home and I'm like, I'm gonna do on Clubhouse. He was on, And this is before like we connected, really.
Absolutely,
we
yes,
connected
yes,
during
yes.
the 79 days. But
Because we were trying to be so serious. A lot of people on there try to be very serious.
I tried to be the psychology guy at first, and I was like, I felt so douchey at first doing that.
Right?
So I was like,
I was trying to be the pretentious or not like somebody.
When I saw you in Armin, I was like, oh, these guys are some heavy duty photographers right here, man. But like I was like, I didn't know.
But then you saw we pop off. You're like, these are fucking half alcoholic people, bro.
We all mellowed out 100%.
Yeah.
That's the best part about it.
I think it's the first week.
We would have
two.
never met if even except for the Armenian part, just our fields. I mean, I don't know where I would meet you in that sense, right?
That's absolutely right. But I'm very happy for this app because we've mingled, we've spoken. We kind of, what I always say about Clubhouse in general is like, you can tell the genuinity of a person through Clubhouse because it's very hard to fake who you are unless you're a fucking sociopath.
Well, what's funny is though, on Instagram, I know those people on Instagram.
Yes.
I made them in real life. They're not the same. Well, they are, but sometimes they're not the same though, right? At all, personality-wise.
Right.
Because you can plan it, you can write it out, you can redo it, you can do it, resend it, all that kind of stuff. Clubhouse is just vocal and it's raw, right?
It's the living podcast.
It's a living podcast, and the thing is though, when I met all you guys for the first time, you guys were exactly who we said we were. There was literally no difference in the way you guys were at all because we're out to like 2 a.m. on Clubhouse sometimes. It's crazy.
Bro, last night I hung out with this man from I want to say like 9 p.m. till like 1-ish, 12-ish.
Yeah, whatever.
But I've hung out with this man for 3-4 outings so far. Yeah. We've had a good time. Again, COVID safe.
Vaccine too.
This man's vaccinated. And I'm on my way. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But it's very, very refreshing.
We've talked more. I mean, I've talked to you hours-wise. I mean, more than most of my friends during all this past year.
Same, man. All my friends.
Because you get bored, you go on, you got Clubhouse, and it's just what.
Absolutely, man. About, we go on there and we fuck around, we joke around, then we get deep.
Slow
sometimes
it's a natural evolution, and that's the nature of 79 right there, right? It means nothing. Nothing means nothing. What's that, Randy Savage? Nothing means nothing.
Nothing means nothing. Yeah. But on that note, man, thank you for coming out.
It's a pleasure.
I appreciate you. I've befriended a man that I would not know about through Clubhouse, even though it's in beta form, right? I
guess so.
Yes. But this is episode number 8. 8, right? Yes, 8. Yes, let's go with 8. Episode 8. This is Dr. Tony.
We should say every number right now, just in case you got to.
876-54321. But Dr. Anthony Tony Saroyan, he came out. He blessed us. He gave you some facts. I gave you some facts. Like, comment, and subscribe on the podcast from from Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and we're out of here. What do you think about that? We'll see you guys on the next one. All right, let's go.
Listen, buddy, I'm not going to be around when the Armenians take over the world. Who the hell wants you?
This is cool. So, it's cool.